In 2020, this duplex cost me $6,700 out of my pocket. But you know what? In 2025, that same property put $9,000 into my pocket. Same address, same building. What changed? So let's have a quick chat with Chatto and go through the numbers and why I would do it again in a heartbeat. So this property was purchased towards the end of 2019. We were able to purchase this property from what's called a wholesaler for the price of $78,000. So we bought the property for $78,000. It needed some work, and we needed some reserves. So we actually borrowed $100,000 to purchase the property. So we had zero out of pocket and $22,000 in our bank account at closing to run the deal. When we closed on the property, apartment 1 was rented for $650 and apartment 2 was vacant. So we got apartment 2 filled not too long after, and our combined rent was about $1,400 a month. On paper, it looked like a solid deal. Then reality hit. Year 1, I lost $6,740 on this duplex. Here's the breakdown. In 2020, throughout the entirety of the year, we brought in an income of $17,866. Repairs, that was a biggie, was $9,303. About 2/3 of that, a little over $6,000, was just for a tenant turnover, which is, again, is why I say these tenant turnovers are so expensive. That one turnover would have been the difference between breaking even on year 1 and losing almost $7,000 on year 1. Insurance was about $840, taxes about $4,300. Our licensing fee is $140 in the city where the property is located. So therefore, our net operating income, if we owned the property free and clear, we would have made $3,260. Great. But again, we borrowed $100,000 at 10% interest. So that first year, we paid $10,000 in interest to our lender. So that's how we ended up going from, if we owned it free and clear, making $3,200 to losing $6,740. So the big lesson here is that turnovers will completely destroy your profitability. One bad turnover, you're spending $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, even more. And even though the first year may have looked like a dud, when you sit back and think about it, here's the thing you need to remember about real estate. You can't necessarily judge the property about how it performs in year 1. So during this time period, right? So that first year, we're done. Okay, we got that bad tenant out. We did our turnover, and what did we do? Right? We managed the property well. We maintained the property, and we continued to increase rents over time. We got better at tenant screening. So with this particular tenant, the lesson that I learned is always Google your tenant. Right? If somebody applies for your apartment, Google them. You might learn a lot of stuff about them. I'll leave it at that. But we held the property. We didn't get concerned. It was in a good area. And the thing with real estate is time, not timing, but time is the secret weapon. As time goes on, rents go up, appreciation, mortgage payoff, etc. So now, that being said, same duplex, same address, year 5 brought in almost $9,000 in cash flow, even with another turnover. So the funny thing is, in year 5, we actually had a turnover as well. So let's take a look at the numbers for 2025. The income for 2025 was $30,390. According to my math, which could be wrong, that's a 70% increase from year 1. That's what we're bringing in now, $1,400 per unit. We've doubled our rental income over the past 5 years. Repairs were actually almost the same. It was $8,350, and again, about $6,000 of that was for a turnover. Like I said, turnovers are expensive. We actually had to pay an agent to get this one leased, so that was about $1,330 was our leasing fee. Insurance went up from, I think it was $840 when we bought it in year 1. Now it's up to $1,113. Taxes went up to $4,600. Licensing still $140. So our net operating income, which that means if we own the property free and clear and there was no debt, we would have made on that property $14,857 on that property. But we have a mortgage on it. Luckily, we refinanced, so we're no longer paying $10,000 a year in interest, right? When we borrowed $100,000, 10% is $10,000 a year in interest. Now we've gone out, we've built this portfolio, we've refinanced it, and for this property, I did the math, and it looks like about $6,000 of the interest that we paid on that loan was for this property. So, and it would make sense, right? We borrowed $100,000 at 10%. Now we're borrowing $100,000 at closer to 6%. It's about right? So that refinance is another way that, it's a phenomenal way to increase cash flow. But that being said, so now our cash flow for this property for 2025 was all the way up to $8,874, over $700 a month for one property. So let's do a quick comparison. The income went from $17,000 to $30,000. Net operating income went from $3,200 to $14,800. The cash flow went from negative $6,700 to a positive $8,800. And both years, 2020 and 2025, both had expensive turnovers. So that's the point. Even with problems, even when you have issues in real estate, time will usually help you win. So let's take a quick moment to zoom out and take a look at the equity side of this thing, right? So we purchased this property for $78,000. So as I said before, when I was talking about my buy box, we usually look to create 25% equity. So we were in the property for $100,000. So at the time, we thought it would probably be worth about $140,000, right? So we're buying this property. We probably have about $40,000 in equity at purchase, and we have $20,000 in our pocket because we borrowed from a private lender to purchase. And now, just on Zillow, it's telling me that the property's worth $260,000. Now, I get that Zillow is not the be-all and end-all of what a property's worth, but it gets us in the ballpark of what it might be worth today. We actually just refinanced it again recently, and I'd have to go and look and see what the actual numbers was. I probably should have looked before this video. But anyway, Zillow says it's worth about $260,000, and I think that's about where it was. So this particular property, we've created, right, $160,000 in equity from nothing. We had no money out of pocket. Our current rents are double what they were when we purchased. It went from $1,400 a month to $2,800 a month. And, right, again, no money out of pocket to create this equity, to create this cash flow. Again, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing about real estate. So just to kind of wrap it all up and bring it together, there's 5 key takeaways that I'd like to share with you guys. Number 1, year 1, the first year you own a property doesn't define whether or not it's a good deal or a bad deal, right? You've just taken over the property, stuff happens. You might find out that the heater was on its last leg and you got to replace it. $5-10 grand out the door, right? You might find out that there was this issue, that issue. Year 1 doesn't define the deal. Second big thing is that turnovers are your biggest expense. Both of these were light turnovers, right? To do a turnover for $6 or $7 grand is not that bad. Like, that's not that crazy of a turnover. It's more than it should be, but it's not that crazy of a turnover. We've had turnovers a lot more than that. I'll leave it at that. So that being said, right, turnovers are huge. So you want to make sure that you pick good tenants and retain good tenants. So those are 2 huge things. And right, and I have a whole video on screening tenants. Check that out. And right, as far as retaining tenants, like, that's why when a tenant has an issue at your property, you want to take care of it. You don't want to leave them without hot water for days upon end. You don't want to leave issues unaddressed. You want to make sure that when they call you, if it's something legitimate, you take care of it quickly. So that's number 2, is that turnovers are your biggest expense. Number 3, time with rentals. Time does all the heavy lifting, right? Time does all the heavy lifting. Rents go up. Principal gets paid down, equity builds, and all you need to do is hold, right? And again, my mantra is like, hey, if you can pick up 3 properties by the time you're 30 years old, by the time you're 60, they're paid off, and probably between the 3 of them, be worth $1 million. Add it, like, just in addition to everything else you're doing. Free and clear, not including the $10,000 a month plus potentially in cash flow. But that's a whole nother story. But again, Time does all the heavy lifting in real estate. Number 4, you don't need your own money, right? People get caught up all the time on, hey, I need to come up with a down payment. And while you may not be able to easily borrow more than the purchase price from a private lender day one, it is a muscle that you can learn to build. Private money is probably something I need to do a video on at some point, how to raise private money, how to protect your lender, and that type of thing. But that being said, right, it is possible to buy properties with little to no money down and leverage lenders of other OPM, other people's money, in order to get the deal done. And number 5, you need to buy in the right market. I've talked about some of the deals I had, and I bought them in a bad area, and it was just a nightmare, and a continued nightmare. But if you buy in the right market, your property is going to go up in value. You buy in areas where there's strong population, there's strong growth, there's a strong economy, and it's in a good area. Even if it's in a city, it's in a good area. This property is right on the border of an area that's 100 times better, right? So we knew it was in a good area. We knew it was on a good street. We knew it was in a good section of town. And therefore, it's like, cool, we want to keep this one because this one is going to go up in value more than just the straight cash flow properties. So that being said, if you're sitting on the fence about you're getting your first rental or your next one, just remember, 1 year is not the whole story. Give it time, do it right, and you just got to buy some property. Now I'm going to do the good old lead magnet plug. Anyway, I'm putting together a landlord site visit checklist. I spoke about the landlord site visit checklist in a previous video, and I'm going to leave a link in the description to it. This is going to be a list that you can physically take with you. You print it out, you take it with you whenever you visit one of your properties. And it's going to help you to make sure that when you're at the property, you're getting everything checked that needs to get done to prevent maintenance issues. And just to kind of make sure that you have, while you're there, you handle everything that needs to get handled to prevent wasted trips, wasted maintenance calls. So that's free. Just, put in your email and we'll send it over to you, and appreciate it. So again, it's a little bit new of a format, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me. We're almost 13 minutes in. Hopefully this video was of value to you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Any questions you have, put them down below. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Chat with Chatto. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.